All right, let's talk about the future, specifically the year 2035, and how AI is going to completely reshape your job, my job, well, pretty much the entire economy. And listen, this isn't some far-off sci-fi fantasy. This transformation, it's already started.
Okay, first things first, we have got to get past this old story. You know the one, the army of robots coming to make us all redundant? Honestly, that's a total distraction from the change that's actually happening, which is way more subtle and way more profound. See, the real story here is about deconstruction. It's about breaking things down. If you really want to get a handle on the future of your career, you've got to stop thinking of your job as this one big, solid thing. Instead, picture it as just a bundle of different tasks. Why? Because that's exactly how AI sees it. What we're living through right now is nothing short of a cognitive industrial revolution. Think about it. The first industrial revolution automated muscle power, right? Well, this one is completely different. It's not coming for our muscles, it's targeting the very core of what we do in our offices, our ability to think, to analyze, and to create. And this brings us to a really key concept: cognitive atomization. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Just imagine an old-school artisan building a car from scratch, all by hand. The assembly line came along and just shattered that craft into hundreds of tiny, simple, repeatable steps. Well, guess what? AI is doing the exact same thing right now, but to professional jobs. It's taking the complex thought work of lawyers, financiers, and marketers and breaking it down into these little micro-tasks that can either be automated or augmented by AI. So this whole revolution puts us at this massive fork in the road. And this is really the central economic debate of our time. Because on one path, AI is promising just this unbelievable level of economic growth. But on the other path, it's threatening to create absolutely staggering levels of inequality.
I mean, the potential upside here is just astronomical. We're talking projections of AI adding over $7 trillion to the global GDP by 2035. Some economists think we're on the upswing of what they call a productivity J-curve. Basically, that all the digital investments we've made for decades are finally about to pay off in this huge burst of growth. But that leads to the multi-trillion-dollar question, right? Who's actually going to benefit from all this new wealth?
And this is where we see two totally dueling visions coming from two leading economists at MIT. On one side, you've got David Otter, who's pretty optimistic. He sees AI as this amazing tool that can rebuild the middle class by letting more people do high-skill work, like a nurse practitioner using an AI to help with diagnoses. But then, on the other side, you've got Darren Acemoglu, and he's warning us about what he calls so-so automation. This is AI that's just good enough to replace a worker and cut some costs, but not really good enough to create new value. And the end result of that? The middle class gets hollowed out. Okay, so that's the big picture, the huge economic debate. But let's bring it down to earth. Let's make this personal. What does this cognitive atomization stuff actually mean for your day-to-day work? What's going to change between 9 and 5? Let's use a marketing campaign as an example. It used to be a creative director would handle pretty much the whole shebang, but by 2035, it's going to look more like a cognitive assembly line. The AI is doing all the heavy lifting. It's analyzing the data, writing the copy, even generating the images. So what's left for the human? Well, that's step 3, the strategy, the integration, the curation. You're not the one painting the picture anymore. You're the conductor of an AI orchestra, making sure all the pieces play together beautifully. And this isn't just about marketing, not at all. We're seeing this exact same pattern play out across the board. Lawyers, they're going to do less tedious drafting and more high-level client strategy. Admin staff, they'll shift from just entering data to handling the tricky exceptions the system can't figure out. Even artists are going to focus less on pure technical skill and more on the big conceptual vision. You see the trend here? In every single case, the truly human skills, strategy, empathy, good old-fashioned judgment, they're becoming more valuable than ever before. So what's the critical takeaway from all this? It's simple. The skills that got you your job today probably won't be enough to keep it tomorrow. The World Economic Forum is predicting that a whopping 44% of worker skills are going to be disrupted, and that's just in the next 5 years. By 2035, any new skill you learn will have a half-life of about 5 years before it's basically obsolete. So that whole idea of, going to college, getting a degree, and then working for 40 years, yeah, that's over. Lifelong learning isn't just some corporate buzzword anymore. It's the new baseline requirement for staying employed, period. And that brings us to the human side of all this. what's it actually going to feel like to work in 2035? Because as AI becomes this constant presence in our work lives, it's really only going to play one of two roles. It's either going to be your partner or it's going to be your supervisor.
So let's dig into this really critical concept: algorithmic management. This is the future where AI isn't just a tool you use. No, it's the boss. We see this all over the gig economy already, right? But by 2035, the projections show it could be everywhere, even in corporate offices. We're talking about software making the calls on who to hire, who to fire, and how you're performing day to day.
This quote just nails the new kind of social hierarchy that could pop up. The biggest divide in the future workforce might not be blue collar versus white collar. Instead, it could be something much simpler: the people who manage the algorithms and the people who are managed by the algorithms. Now, the dark side of this path. It's a future that's been called the digital panopticon. Imagine a workplace where you are under constant surveillance. Every keystroke, every email, every meeting, all of it is monitored and fed into some mysterious black box algorithm that spits out a judgment on your performance. And we already have the research that shows this leads directly to massive stress, burnout, and a complete loss of the autonomy that we all need to feel human.
But, and this is a big but, there is a much, much more hopeful alternative. It's a future built around this idea of the supermind. This is where humans and AI team up, forming this incredible creative partnership. You, the human, you set the strategy, you handle the ethics, you provide the vision. The AI, in turn, handles the stuff it's great at: superhuman memory, insane calculation speed, spotting patterns no human could ever see. It's a model that doesn't replace us. It enhances our own abilities and frees us up to do more meaningful, more creative work.
And this is maybe the most important point of all. None of this is set in stone. The future isn't something that just happens to us. The kind of workplace we'll have in 2035 is going to be a direct result of the choices we are all making right now. The companies, the policymakers, you, and me. So let's walk through 3 possible scenarios of where we could end up.
Okay, first up, the really optimistic path. Let's call it the augmented renaissance. In this future, we've decided to use AI to empower workers, not replace them. The huge productivity gains, they get shared, which leads to amazing things like a standard 4-day work week becoming the norm. The middle class actually grows because AI makes expertise more accessible to everyone. It's a future with a boom in creativity and new discoveries. All right, now for the pessimistic scenario. We'll call this one the disconnected proletariat. In this version of 2035, corporations have gone all in on that so-so automation just to slash costs. What happens? Society gets split in two. You have a tiny elite of AI commanders at the top, and then a huge, stressed-out class of gig workers who are managed by algorithms. The economy might be growing on paper, but so are inequality and burnout. And finally, there's the messy middle ground. Let's call it frictional stagnation. In this future, the AI hype never quite lived up to the reality. The tech is just good enough to get rid of some jobs, but that massive productivity boom we were promised, it never really shows up. So new jobs aren't created fast enough to replace the old ones, and we end up with this sluggish, frustrating economy that doesn't really work for anybody. So at the end of the day, all of these huge, complex trends and economic forecasts, they really just boil down to one simple and very personal question for each of us. The choice between these different futures isn't going to be made in 2035. It's being made right now, in the decisions we make every day. And the answer to this question, it's not just going to define how we work, it's going to define how we live.